culture, there are so many cultures of making your mind ready yet. You know, our dear friend, sang this song about flower, isn't it? Now the point is, not only you bring a white and red flower to your beloved, but can we think of bringing our body as a flower to our beloved? Can we think of bringing our mind as a flower to our beloved? You know that the nature of our mind, what is the quality of our mind, and there is a vibration, you know. And this is a very interesting field. I think Marcus is open to this idea. The field of vibration. That is, our presence itself is not just a kind of one-dimensional lateral presence that we see. There are so much of layers to our presence, you know. And this is something also close to scientific experiments, you know. The point is that if our mind is a radiant mind, if your mind is a blossoming mind, if a teacher's mind is a blossoming mind, then immediately it would have a resonance in the mind of the student. Similarly, if your body is much more blossoming, rather than closed and cramped, you know, you look at our body, most of the time it is so closed and cramped. It is not like flowing body, you know. So the point is an integral education, just to begin with body and mind, the two terms that we are familiar. If we are not familiar with the vital, the psychic and the spiritual, for the moment let us keep exploring. Now with body and mind, we can also open up concretely in many concrete ways, so that our realization of the body, it becomes manifold. We realize that the body is also part of the cosmos. The body is also cosmos. Similarly, the mind, you know, we realize that our mind is not just closed within our brain. So therefore, in fact, there is so much of potential in our mind. So both modern education, if it emphasizes so much on our mind, then we must think of the normative character of our mind. Disciplined mind, of course, discipline I am not talking in terms of Foucault. Michael Foucault has talked about discipline and ponies. Our mind has been disciplined by society, by culture. As a result, it has forgotten the art of creativity. I am talking about another discipline, a discipline as sadhana, a discipline that we know, that need to have so that we can play music, isn't it? Now, while play music, if you want to play Beethoven, if you start playing Bach, would it do? And that has happened to our modern youngsters today. So we have thought that any kind of discipline is something that has to be thrown to the sea in Malmo or Gothenburg. No. So therefore the point is, how do we create a disciplined mind as a kind of musical rhythm? How do we create a mind that blossoms? A mind that sparkles, you know, a sparkling mind.
That's a
So
beautiful
today
idea. And I'm saying that's a beautiful idea, but I'm aware that we've got other sessions that will need to follow this one. And could you just sum up for us, because I can see how this is such a beautiful arrangement of one premise leading to the next and to the next. Could you sum up for us where you're going with this, because I'm sure there are a couple of questions from the people here as well.
Now, let us be together with questions, and then towards maybe later on I could offer some coordinating thoughts. Now let us invite questions and thoughts, please.
We have one happy person.
Yes, I don't have questions, I'm just happy.
I'm very interested and in this idea you touched on, and then because we all started singing songs, we didn't get back there. You talked about thinking about the contrast between intercultural and transcultural. Could you please say something about that?
Yes, thank you, Marcus. But in a spirit of festival of conversation, can I take a few for questions and we can think it together? Is it okay, Marcus?
Yes, very fine.
Do I have your kind...
Busy melting.
They're melting.
Yeah.
What was my question?
Yeah, just a question.
Oh, he would like to discuss a number of things. If there are other things from people here, do you have questions for him?
I was just thinking about the folk.
You have to speak very loud, I think.
The folk high schools, as we are brought up with them here, we don't think of them as really very special. We just take them for granted, but that is apparently that is not the case in the rest of the world. To have that open-spaced schools, or did I misunderstand?
Yes. I'm understanding your thought. Please go ahead.
No, I was just that was just a thought that perhaps we take them for granted, and I was just how the situation in like in India is there's not a lot of folk high school like schools.
No, not really.
No.
Not many. And there is one, and that happens mostly in a name. So that whole spirit and practice of folk high school it has a very interesting pathway, as I just suggested, and this is something that has a deep global relevance today. And as a kind of practice, as a way of being together. I think the whole practice of being together, that art of togetherness, And to this, though theoretically, I could add two practices: art of soulful togetherness, and also an art of solitude. And you find in folk high school practice simultaneously a space for solitude, though in a transcultural way. Now, in terms of available culture, that is understood in a language of privacy, isn't it? Or as a practice of privacy, or a space of privacy. And though the very practice of a folk high school living, where 3-4 students are staying together, now that in itself is a challenge to the notion of privacy. But linguistically, the notion of privacy could be transformed to a language of solitude, which is different from solitariness, and that solitude can be much more meditative. And that meditative is not just individual meditation, it could be co-meditation. I am not using the word collective meditation, I am using the word, for example, co-meditation. So very interesting kind of discourse and practice can follow up, and here I could link with Marcus' thought about cultural, intercultural and transcultural, is that inevitably there is a cultural space where we come from. For instance, that one interesting kind of the overarching cultural dimension in contemporary West is individualism, isn't it? And of course, Danish individualism might be slightly different from English individualism. The Swedish individualism might be slightly different, And the point is that culture of individualism, now that culture of individualism, we would have to acknowledge that it has come from a particular field and its limitation.